Okay, let's start.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. I, Brynjolfur, propose a change to the Communications Act of 2003 because it is employed in a way that has adulterated free speech and that is a travesty of justice, since it can criminalize any off-color remark or even very innocuous statements. Before considering whether it is imperative to change the Communications Act, I conducted a careful review of the relevant case law. Furthermore, I thoroughly checked the statements of the condemned to see whether they were accurate, and last but not least, my years of studying law have equipped me with the knowledge to assess these judgments. I will start by examining the law in question, that is this section 127 of the Communications Act of 2003. Then I will introduce the most outrageous case, which is PF versus Mark Meekan, and then I will briefly touch upon the case of Chelsea Russell. The law. Section 127 of the Communications Act states, a person is guilty of an offence if he sends by means of a public electronic communications network a message or other matter that is grossly offensive or of an indecent, obscene or menacing character. So, what then constitutes a message or other material of a grossly offensive or an indecent, obscene or menacing character? Well, it would appear that that is effectively whatever the police say it is, regardless of context. And that includes self-evident jokes and irony. This is all that would be needed for an arrest or charge. All which is then required is to get a judge to agree with the police. If the defendant dares to put up a defense, he or she is at risk of a higher sentence. So, if we turn our attention to this odious criminal, is anyone here familiar with this unsavory character? What's his name?
I can't remember, but I read some time ago about it.
Okay, so what foul deed did he commit that landed him in court?
Was he the dog owner?
Yes.
Yes.
Dog owner.
So he trained his dog to salute like Sig Heil and respond to the phrase, gas the Jews. And he uploaded a video of this on YouTube, and that landed him in hot water, and then before the court. So, and I kid you not, there's a real case. The prosecution maintained that it was actually not a joke, and an actual incitement to violence that was merely disguised as a joke. The Crown contended that the inclusion of the dog was an attempt to muddy the waters around him making, producing, and posting the video. Whew. Apparently, you have to explain jokes to British officials like you explain jokes to, well, imbeciles. The joke relies on the juxtaposition of something cute, like a pug, with something bad, like, I don't know, Nazism. So, even if it is a joke, they maintain that they are allowed to ignore specific contextual parts of the evidence. Just think about that for a moment. I'm still waiting for the Crown to raid the Imperial War Museum because they have Nazi paraphernalia on display there. Ignoring context has also been a theme in other trials, such as of a Liverpool teenager, Chelsea Russell, which posted the lyrics to I'm Trippin' by the rapper Snapdog on her Instagram account as a tribute to a 13-year-old boy who died in a road accident. The Crown Prosecution Service, seemingly engaged in an ongoing mission to discredit itself utterly, saw fit to prosecute Russell under the Communications Act on the grounds that the lyrics were grossly offensive because they contained a racial epithet. Furthermore, If posting Snapdog's lyrics on Instagram means that Russell is guilty of a hate crime, then by quoting the song, am I equally indictable? Should I also be put on trial? Should the rapper be indicted as well? Should the prosecutors be arrested for reading out the lyrics in court? Remember, context doesn't matter. To conclude, we appear to have reached the point where any of us can be arrested and convicted just because some official takes exception to an unwelcome electronic communication. And if this is the case, then Britain has ceased to be a liberal society, and its citizens are subject to arbitrary and selective prosecution. And in regards to Airdrie Sheriff Court, which was the court in question in the Mark Meekan case, let me quote from the book of Amos. For I know your manifold transgressions and your mighty sins. They afflict the just, they take a bribe, and they turn aside the poor in the gate from their right. To my fellow students, whether you support legislation of this kind or find it appalling, surely you must agree that context matters. Thank you.
So this is from a subscriber of mine, which gave me this video in order to mirror it. Apparently he got a really good grade on his presentation. And it's important to note that this Communication Act initially started before the internet became popular. And it was to dissuade people from picking up the phone and doing prank calls and sending offensive or, disgusting messages to someone else, basically like harassing them in real life over the phone. And while this legislation does make sense in a world where people just use the phones to communicate, on the internet it's something else entirely, because apparently even dogs can be the perpetrators of hate crime now. The way this legislation works is just if a person considers themselves offended, then they're automatically a victim, and the person who offended them gets in trouble. Now, regarding Count Dankula, or Michan, I want to point out just how ridiculous this is. There is an article from the New York Times, which unfortunately I can't show you because it's behind the paywall. But it does talk about the curious incident of a dog in Finland. So apparently the person who was the dog owner decided to mock the Führer, and train the dog to do something very similar to what Count Dankula did. And the Nazis tried to persecute this person because initially he didn't really break any laws per se, but it was like offensive towards the Nazi party. And what's surprising in this particular case is that after they tried to persecute them, eventually the Nazis gave up because they realized how ridiculous they look by doing so. So the actual Nazis stepped back and said, no. This is a little bit way too ridiculous. Like, even for us, let the guy alone, let the dog alone. We're just giving him extra publicity. Meanwhile, Michan was harassed through the court. I don't know how many of you know this, but apparently he didn't got a free lawyer because they judged the fact that he can't afford one, because he's living with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend is wealthy, so she can pay for his lawyer. And then they also called his girlfriend that's paying for his lawyer to testify against him in court. Like, it's just mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. And eventually he got a fine, and the government decided to just seize his accounts from the bank, so he's not going to go to prison. He was just forced to pay that way. But the biggest damage that was done really was to his reputation. And apparently now he can't find a job anywhere. And this is the biggest problem, like, you got someone that made the joke, is being dragged through the criminal courts, is being smeared by the media. And all of it is, again, like, he had a dog that's mocking the Nazis. Like, anyway, right. So I wanted you to see this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and there's a link to the guy's channel in the description if you guys want to check it out. Oh, and before anyone asks, yes, Dungeons and Dragons is probably going to happen tomorrow. I keep getting asked this on Twitter a lot, but look, I don't know. It's not up to me. I'm available on every Wednesday. I want to play, but usually 1 hour or sometimes a couple of minutes before we're supposed to start, Sargas says that he can't play, so you know, that gets canceled. So don't ask me, because I legitimately do not know if we play or not, but I did ask and he said that maybe. So I don't know. We'll see. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.